There are some moments in the Black Clover manga that I love, not necessarily because of the hype, but because of the potential growth of certain characters, and sometimes these moments foreshadow exponential growth for certain characters, and this chapter was by far one of the most impactful chapters for a certain character that we will be talking about in this video. That said, this video is going to contain a lot of spoilers, so if you haven't read the chapter yet, here is the moment you leave the video, read the chapter and return. That said, let's get into the analysis of Black Clover chapter 248. We got a flashback this time of the time skip training, and I would say I was extremely glad Asta suggested Locke and Magna train with Gaja. And thinking about it right now, I just remembered that Locke, Magna and Noel are the only elemental mages of the Black Bull squad, which is quite small in comparison to the likes of the Golden Dawn or the Silver Eagles. But then since Noel was already set to train in the Hard Kingdom, then I kind of understand Asta's rationale for bringing Magna and Locke. So Magna and Locke are introduced to Gaia, and Gaja decides to train them, but then they need to train on how to cast runes. Locke is adept at doing so immediately, but Magna isn't, and Gaja explains that Magna is unable to do so because he is tier 5 and he has low mana, a statement which actually infuriates Magna to the point where he leaves. And despite the fact that Asta tried to call him back, Locke simply answered that if Magna was unable to grudge simply because he could not cast runes, then he wasn't worth it at all. That's kind of harsh coming from someone who actually knows Magna pretty well, but I kind of think that Tabata is hinting to the fact that post-time skip Magna will not be limited by his amount of mana. When we actually argue in the community, many people state that Magna is by far one of the weakest members of the Black Bulls, and his weakest attribute is actually his low quantity of mana, because Magna actually has a lot of destructive firepower, but he actually lacks mana to back that up with. So if Magna is able to gain more mana, or at the very least to attain noble level mana post time skip, I think he'll be dwelling with the likes of Asta and the other top tier mages from the Black Bull squad. I also wanted to say that I don't understand the reason why we are still debating on the magic tier system. Nero was tier 6, which is even lower than Magna, and despite the fact that she was a noble, which means she had decent amount of mana, her magic was cast out as being useless. But then with Forbidden Sealing magic, Nero was classified as her arcane stage, which is by far greater than tier 0, which is the strongest magic type. Asta tier 9, tier 0, I don't think I need to talk about that. So I think that it's quite weird that the magic tier system is still being used to scale characters, especially in the community. Because if you look at the case of someone like Vanessa, I always bring this example up. Vanessa, prior to gaining Rouge, I would say would be probably tier 4, and after gaining Rouge, she probably got to Arcane stage because of Rouge's reality warping ability. So you can clearly tell that a single spell can change the level of a mage from, let's say, tier 0 or tier 9 in Asta's case to tier Arcane. So you can clearly see that this magic tier system in itself is erroneous in ways. So Magna left, Asta probably as well, and I don't know when this took place, but I'm assuming it actually took place not too long after the two countries decided to ally themselves to each other. So we pan out to Locke training with Gaia, and immediately Locke wants to learn True Lightning magic, and he is told by Gaja that it took him 2 years to master such a skill. And Gaja, who is a master at finesse, as we saw when he was fighting against Noel and the others, is a master at discharge lightning magic, whereas Locke is a master at lightning equipped magic. So if Locke wanted to learn how to use true magic, his fighting style is different from Gaja's, so he will actually need to learn it on his own. The runes, as far as we are concerned, can be given certain instructions like grow bigger or follow the opponent, and what we also learned from that is also that the runes, the more complicated they are, the more powerful the spell would be. So if you get more instructions on the runes or precise instructions on the runes which are kind of complicated, then you could actually master your magic better and you could actually get a better grasp at using it. I think that it is this mastery that actually enabled Gaia to pull up True Lightning magic against Noel and the others. So I think that because of the complicated nature of the runes themselves, when you're actually moving upwards in terms of instructions you can apply on the runes, that's why it took Gaia up to 2 years to master such skills. So we return to Locke versus Veking, and Locke was at a disadvantage because of Zveking's firepower and Zveking's unique ability. One of the abilities I believe was trouble was the fact that Zveking could sense mana. I think he had very good sensory abilities, and then once he sensed the magic type in question, he manipulated his skin at the macromolecular level to the point where his skin became the natural counter to the opponent's magic. For example, in Locke's case, Locke is a lightning magic user. He's weak to earth magic, so Zveking could actually manipulate his skin to the point where the portion of his body which was going to get in contact with Locke's magic could be as hard as rock. So in that case, he neutralized the lightning aspect of Locke's magic. And as the battle drew out, we saw that Zveking had a very fatal weakness, and that was his reaction time. Certainly he had very good sensory abilities and he also had very good defense, but the point was Locke's speed kept increasing and Zveking could not meet up with the reaction speed needed to stop Locke's attacks. So bit by bit he got to the point where he started taking gradual damage from Locke, and that's where Zveking's game was disrupted, because once he started getting damage from Locke, he began thinking that it was the end for him, and we saw that Locke kept on increasing in speed because we saw that the number of runes he was casting mid-air was increasing. He moved from 1 to 2 and then upwards, and upon launching Zveking upwards with a kick, he was able to charge at Zveking with light beat, and Zveking, upon sensing that magic spell, knew that he could not stop Locke, so Locke charged right through Zveking and in the process was able to use True Lightning for the first time, and that's how he took out Zveking. But then it isn't clear as to whether Zveking has been totally defeated, because in the case of Gage Rise, we saw that they were able to use regenerative magic, so that was part of the devil's blessing they got. So I kind of think that there is still the possibility for Zveking to reawaken via regeneration, but that Tabata would have to show us in the next chapter. So those were my thoughts on this part of the chapter. But then I do have a question for you guys. Do you guys believe that the speed factor was what actually enabled Locke to defeat Zveking, or do you guys believe that Zveking was unable to stop True Lightning magic? For example, if Zveking went against Gaia and Gaia used True Lightning magic, do you guys believe that Zveking would have been unable to stop the True Lightning? Because True Lightning seems apparently different from lightning generated from the mana of the normal person. So those were my thoughts on that part of the chapter. There's also been an argument in the community regarding Locke's success in defeating an apostle who had greater than 50% of the devil's mana, and now people are comparing Locke to Yuno. I think that Yuno would still high diff Zveking but defeat Zveking, because I think that creativity wise Yuno is also very smart. He has the mana to continue fighting Zveking. He has a mana to draw the fight and find out about Zveking's weakness. He also has very good sensory abilities, and couple that to the fact that he also has the spirit sword of Zephyr. So I think that despite the backlash Yuno has got because he wasn't impressive against the Apostles of Darkness, and mind you, those guys were really strong. They had actually 40% of the devil's power, but because Locke was able to pull up and defeat someone who had greater amount of the devil's power, people are now saying that Locke is stronger than Yuno, and I kind of understand where this is coming from, but I don't want to get into those type of discussions. So let me know your thoughts about this in the comment section. Subscribe to the channel to become part of the Blizzard crew. Hit the notification bell to get notified when I release future content, and as always, stay safe.